Charles Pellegrin might be, I don't know. We're going to return to that Trump-Xi summit. The two leaders held a meeting with a large delegation of US CEOs.
I'll tune in on Sunday. Trump was...
You'll miss it then, it's on Saturday.
Oh, well.
There you go.
So, okay, well, that failed. Trump was accompanied by the biggest names in business and promised to lobby for China to further open up to these companies. And Xi Jinping's public statements this Thursday echo that same sentiment, saying the door to China will open wider and wider, and talking about expanding cooperation in trade and other sectors. Well, one of the CEOs present is Jensen Huang of Nvidia. The chip maker is the world's most valuable company on the back of making the world's most advanced AI chips. He's got a lot riding on this trip and almost didn't make it. He was picked up along the way during a stopover in Alaska. Well, just a few years ago, about a quarter of Nvidia's revenue came from sales to China, but that has drastically changed. The first quarter of fiscal year 2026, revenue generated by sales of H20 chips to China represented about a tenth of total revenue, and that was a chip specifically designed to meet U.S. export restrictions to China, so powerful enough to be commercially interesting, but not to the extent it would pose a threat to U.S. tech supremacy or national security. And in the latest quarter, Nvidia flat out explained that the outlook for the future assumed there would be no revenue from China whatsoever. The main issue here has been export restrictions. Jensen Huang successfully lobbied the U.S. into lifting those restrictions for his new H200 AI products back in December, this destined for China as well. But China has not allowed for their use locally, instead encouraging its domestic industry to rely on domestic competitors. He'll be hoping to see some change to that policy with this trip to Beijing so that Nvidia can be a hugely influential player both in the US and in Chinese artificial intelligence.
Well, perhaps some good news for China. This is because one of its ships has successfully crossed the Strait of Hormuz.
A Chinese supertanker called Yuanhua, carrying 2 million barrels of Iraqi crude, sailed through the strait on Wednesday after being stranded in the Gulf for more than 2 months. That's according to ship tracking data. It's now headed to China's Zhoushan port. This means the ship made it past the U.S. Navy blockade, just as Trump and Xi were about to meet in Beijing. It's only the third known passage by a Chinese oil tanker since the war in Iran started.
Now, another sector looking to benefit from this summit is U.S. agriculture.
Now, we spoke about Chinese purchases of U.S. soybeans yesterday, but U.S. beef also has a lot riding on this summit. Back in 2022, those U.S. exports to China totaled $1.7 billion. And last year, they dwindled down to $500 million. Those sales become casualties of the trade war between the two countries, with over 400 U.S. beef plants losing their export licenses to China over the past year or so. The CEO of Cargill, Brian Sykes, Cargill is a commodities trading house which owns a number of beef producing plants, is in Beijing on this trip along with that delegation of CEOs with hopes of reversing that trend. Reuters had initially reported that China renewed licenses for hundreds of U.S. beef processing plants this Thursday, but then reported that Chinese customs data showed those licenses had since expired again. We're waiting for further details to emerge.
And we're going to finish on something else. After months of delay, the United States Senate has confirmed the nomination of Kevin Warsh as the country's new chair of the Federal Reserve.
Warsh's confirmation on Wednesday is the culmination of a campaign waged by Trump against Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who repeatedly refused to lower interest rates upon Trump's request. In the past month, the president's Justice Department opened an investigation into the Fed, widely seen as a move to oust Powell. Caroline Baum has a story.
In the narrowest vote in Federal Reserve history, the U.S. Senate confirmed Kevin Warsh as the head of the country's central bank on Wednesday.
The ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination is confirmed.
Set to start as chair on Friday, Warsh says he's ready to carry out what he calls a regime change within the U.S.'s most important financial institution.
So this central bank's going on more than 100 years, and if they reform themselves, they're going to have another great 100. Absent that, I worry.
This comes after years of hostilities between U.S. President Donald Trump and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The longtime Fed chief has refused to lower interest rates in recent months, despite the president's increasingly aggressive demands to do so. While lower interest rates could rapidly boost the U.S. economy, decreasing them at a time when inflation is persistent risks sending prices spiraling even further out of control. Consumer costs in the U.S. have skyrocketed, and the affordability crisis has been pushed even further following Trump's war in Iran. Warsh was handpicked by Trump himself, a fact that causes concern among Democratic lawmakers. Many fear that his nomination will undermine the neutrality of the U.S. central bank.
That was the innuendo. Are you going to be the president's human sock puppet?
No, I'm honored the president nominated me for the position, and I'll be an independent actor if confirmed as chairman of the Federal Reserve.
In a rare move, Jerome Powell says he will stay on the Fed's Board of Governors after his term as chair ends on Friday, citing Trump's unprecedented attacks on the central bank's independence.
Charles, thanks a lot. Charles Pellegrin with business for us on France 24.